I'm Joe Lee. I've been director of Glucksman Ireland House, the Centre for Irish and Irish American Studies here in New York University for 15 years. And it's a really great pleasure to welcome the great Famine voices here to New York and the programme they're preparing to present. And I just wanted to say a word about the famine and the way it hit New York and its importance in Irish America, so to speak, and Irish American relations. And of course there was immigration into New York before the famine, but it really exploded with the impact of the famine. Not mind you in the first year of 1845-46 to this extent it would subsequently, because at that time the fare to Quebec in Canada was actually cheaper than the fare to New York. But once the fares were reduced, and from 1847 on, they poured into New York City. And of course New York was growing dramatically at that stage. It hadn't been the biggest port in America until the 1820s. But it began to develop rapidly then, and the Irish famine influx turned it really into one of the world's great ports very rapidly. And from 1848 on, the Irish carved out a place for themselves in New York City, sometimes against opposition, because they weren't just Irish, they were predominantly Catholic, coming into a predominantly Protestant city, and that could lead to detentions. And of course they were very poor for the most part. Many of them were on the verge of starvation when they arrived, so they had to claw their way up for the most part. There was assistance from the Catholic Church, there was assistance from Irish supporters among better off New Yorkers, sometimes Irish Protestants in fact, but most of it was a desperate struggle upwards. And it took, I suppose, a generation for the Irish to establish themselves as very heavy hitters in New York politics. But if you remember that by 1855, when the next census was taken, that of the population of Manhattan, which was then the core of New York, over 25% were Irish born. And of course, as men had a vote in America, men over 21. Women didn't have the vote, and men had the vote, and of course it was 50-50 Irish male and female. That was one of the great striking features of Irish immigration to America. Most other European immigrants came with male majorities, sometimes 2-to-1 male majorities. It was 1-to-1 in Irish America, which meant they could intermarry. And so you have the persistence of Irish America for much longer than a number of other hyphenated Americans. By the 1870s, after the Civil War, their command of politics, because they knew politics from Ireland at mass level, from Daniel O'Connell on. Then Daniel O'Connell is the creator of mass Irish politics, much earlier than in most European countries, and earlier in many respects than even America itself. From the 70s to the 1930s, Irish politicians dominated New York politics. And that was based on numbers in the famine, it was based on the gender balance, and it was based on the capacity of the Irish to work their way up. They didn't arrive there by politics alone. They arrived there because they were extremely good workers, extremely hard workers. New York was expanding very rapidly, growing in population, and of course the Irish got into the building industry. And then because it was growing in wealth, a lot of the households of middle class America wanted servants. And of course Irish women coming over, they had some English, and they were extremely good workers and very able, very good servants in that sense. And so the Irish controlled major segments, or dominated major segments of the New York labour market by the 1870s. And that allowed them then become central to New York politics for actually most of the time since, but certainly from the 70s to the 1930s, the Second World War, Irish political ability and political capacity, much of which they had brought from Ireland with them. We forget just how advanced in political participation, not in political liberty, but in political participation Ireland was, or the Irish were, because of the struggle with the English in many respects, compared with many European countries. So the Irish were at the cutting edge of a great deal of what happened. Most of it good, some of it not so good, but most of it good in New York since the famine. And it's a tremendous legacy.